Hey guys, Frank Minetti, Advisors Mortgage Group, Branch Manager, Freehold. Hope you guys are doing awesome. I want to come to you and talk to you today a little bit about waterfront properties. And you might say, well, what do you mean? Like, why? Well, there's subtle differences that you need to be aware of when you're purchasing and financing waterfront properties. They're a little bit different. And I want to give you some specifics that you can look for and put in place when you're considering purchasing a waterfront home. Now, as far as like down payment requirements and all that, it's all the same. Interest rate environment's all the same. But some things to be aware of that so many people overlook when they're purchasing a waterfront home are things like, A, you got a bulkhead, right? How old is that bulkhead? You know, many of us know that when you purchase a property, right after you get under contract, you get out of your attorney review period, what are you doing? You're ordering a home inspection. The majority of home inspection companies do not inspect bulkheads. And you might be like, well, big deal, it's a bulkhead. Bulkheads on the water are a whole different animal than if you think like building a retaining wall in like hardscaping or landscaping. You know, again, click the link in my bio if you're thinking and considering buying a waterfront property. We'll talk to you about this one-on-one, but stay tuned here. We'll give you a little bit more info. So the waterfront bulkhead is different, like I said, than hardscaping or landscaping. It's a very, very expensive item that you don't want to overlook. You know, me and my wife are blessed enough to be living on the waterfront, kind of our dream home, retirement home. When I say retirement, we're not going to leave it. We're not retired. We're not leaving it. But the reality was when we started looking waterfront, we wanted to look for what? That our home had a newer bulkhead. Why is that so important? Because the cost of bulkheads, even a small bulkhead, for example, we live on a 75 by 100 lot, right? So our bulkhead is only 75 feet or 100 feet wide, right? But the reality is to replace that bulkhead could cost $75,000. So if you're making an offer on a property that needs a new bulkhead, you need to know what the condition of that bulkhead is and what it's going to cost you to replace it, because it's something that has to eventually be done, right? And a lot of times these bulkheads aren't just bulkheads. There's docks attached to them, right? We have a dock, right? We have a dock for our boats. So do many people, if not the majority of the people that are living waterfront. That's what they want. That's the reason to be there, right? So you got to know if that bulkhead is new, old, what shape it's in, if it needs to be replaced soon, so that you know to make the right offer on the property or what you might be facing from a repair perspective. What's some of the other things that are important? Well, guess what you need? You need flood insurance, right? Flood insurance falls under two different programs. There's private flood insurance, just like your homeowner's insurance, private insurance carriers that take care of that, which most people that are doing conventional financing will lean towards a private insurance company. But if you're doing an FHA mortgage, and FHA is okay with waterfront property, right? But the difference is, that's subtle, is you can't do private flood insurance right now. It's something that's been in the works for a while. It may change. We're hoping it change. But right now you have to, if you're doing an FHA mortgage, you have to be in a community that participates in the National Flood Insurance Program. So that's some subtle differences, but you got to carry flood insurance. Again, click the link in the bio. Let's get one-on-one if you're considering purchasing waterfront property, and we'll talk about it even more in depth than we are here. The other thing we need to be on the lookout for, we talked about flood insurance, right? But attached to your flood insurance is many of the communities, you know, post Superstorm Sandy, I'm living here in New Jersey, so you know we got hit bad by Hurricane or Superstorm Sandy. And actually when it hit the coast, it wasn't a hurricane, it was a superstorm. And it wasn't so much a wind event, it was a flooding event, right? And so what does that mean? My encouragement to you is you need to do two things. Get with a realtor, a realtor professional that understands waterfront communities. There's homes right now in my neck of the woods that are on the market, but actually still need to be lifted as per the town requirements. What I mean by lifted, it's got to be lifted above the floodplain. That means it's got to be picked up off its foundation and raised. Tremendous expense, right? Also, even if the property doesn't have to be lifted, make sure you get an elevation certificate, right? You want an elevation certificate because you want to know how high your lowest level is above or below the floodplain. because that's going to make a determination on how much your flood insurance costs. Thank God me and my wife have the highest lot in the neighborhood we live in, and our flood insurance is only like $500 or $600 a year. But I have clients that are paying upwards of $3,000 a year for their flood insurance because of their elevation. So when you're purchasing waterfront property, you got to look at these things. You got to look at bulkheads. You got to look at elevation certificates. You got to look at flood insurance. That's all in the mix. So just make sure that you're working with a real estate professional that understands waterfront communities. We don't want to get you in a position where you move in and something catastrophic like a bulkhead happens, or your house needs to be lifted, right? You don't want any of that. You want to move in worry-free. So again, this is Frank Minetti, Branch Manager, Advisors Mortgage Group Freehold. We look forward to talking to you about your waterfront purchase.